I got home from a horrible night around 7 o'clock this morning, and I went on my spam page and I posted this caption that said something like, I feel like everybody's life is better without me in it, and I feel like my life sucks. And I participate in self-help courses and books to scapegoat the fact that my career isn't progressing. And I posted that, and then I went to sleep. And when I woke up, I thought about it, and I don't think that's what I truly believe, which led me to notice that I don't really feel inadequate or lesser than until I start comparing myself to, not even comparing myself to others. I start to feel inadequate when I feel like I'm not meeting the expectations of my audience. And when I say my audience, I don't limit that to just like the internet or people who follow me. I mean the audience that I think is watching me in the world, my family, my friends. When I feel like I'm not meeting the expectations that they have of me is when I start to feel inadequate. And I was thinking, like I said to myself while I was writing, I fear that I'm at a standstill because I don't see my projects moving in the way or the speed that I want them to. But then I had to think about that, and I was like, that's not true. I feel inadequate because I don't feel like my projects are moving fast enough for my audience. I don't have a problem with the speed of my growth. I don't have a problem with where I am, and I don't feel like I'm in a standstill, especially inward. And if I'm growing inward, I know that I'm growing outward. But again, I just notated that I start to feel inadequate or less than when I put my mind, when I start thinking about myself or viewing myself how I think other people are viewing me. And it led me to ask myself a couple of questions about who I am as an artist, what my expectations are, what my standards are, and what I really give a fuck about. Because the things that sometimes I get sad about or discouraged about, I don't think I really care about those things. I'm only trying to care about those things because I feel like my audience cares about those things or the world cares about those things, when in fact I really don't. I wrote something that I want to read out loud. And I said, I crave completion. Completion is my high. I have a strong desire to complete my creations. I start to feel inadequate when my visions aren't meeting completion. The work that I have done inward is reflecting outward, no doubt. The only time I start to feel inadequate is when I compare myself to other people. I feel inadequate when I start to view myself how I think other people view me. But if I'm being honest with myself, I'm proud of where I am. I'm not unhappy with my progress because the progression I have made within is more valuable to me. Maybe even more valuable than the outward progress I allow others to see. And I want to stop there for a second because that's a huge deal. Anything that I have posted or shared or shown, we'll get to that in a second actually. I said only God knows how I've grown and me, and that is enough for me. I won't fall into the pressure or trap to meet demands I think others have of me. I will create when I am ready. I don't feel pressured to prove myself to anybody but myself. When it all falls down, I have a contentment within myself that took so long to get to. I will not compromise that piece trying to prove something to the world. And I asked myself the question, if nobody anticipated anything from me, would I be rushing? No, I wouldn't. Not intentionally, at least. I have made things in the past that I ended up making really fast. I have written songs in 30 minutes. But that's only because the encounter I had with that song or that music was so powerful that I ended up creating it fast. So like sometimes I'll get really passionate about a project and I'll rush it. But I'm not rushing it because I'm trying to meet some time expectation or quota that for an audience. I'm rushing it because I'm passionate about it and I want to rush it. I want to move. I asked myself another question. If no one was watching me and I had no audience, would I be trying to impress or prove? No. Not intentionally, at least. I would be flowing, making things for me on my own time, whenever I want to, and whenever it comes to me, like I have always done. And after I completed that project or that thing, then those people would just be impressed, inspired, or disappointed, or whatever their reaction is. But the point is, if I had nobody watching me, would I feel any type of pressure to prove anything or impress or meet an expectation? No, I wouldn't, because no one's watching me. The only expectation I would have to rely on and live up to would be my own, which in hindsight is really what it is. But we'll get to that in a second. I have decided to create and complete for me. I'll be doing it regardless of my audience's presence anyway. Whether or not anybody was watching, regardless, I'm going to be making things. It is an innate instinct. I'm going to be doing things regardless. So why not just create to the expectation of myself and create as if nobody was watching anyway? Moving forward, though. All of this self-doubt and criticism that I have for myself is because I worry about who's watching and who is going to be listening. I worry about how I sound because I fear the lack of applause. I worry about how I sound because I fear lack of applause. If there was no audience, would I really give a fuck that much? Would I be so self-critical and self-abusive about how I sounded if there was no audience? No, I would not. I doubt my writing abilities, not because I don't think I can write. I doubt my writing abilities because I fear that I won't live up to the expectations of my audience. I doubt my own writing capabilities, not because I don't think I can write or I don't think I'm great. I doubt my writing capabilities because I worry that my expectation won't live up to the expectation of my audience and they'll be disappointed. But fuck that and fuck them. Here's why. I want to define and live up to my own expectations because I'll get into that in a second. What are my expectations of myself, of my art, of why I even do what I do? My expectations are honesty, detail. If we're talking about music, I don't usually gravitate towards normal song structure. So I'm over trying to do that because the only reason why I started to challenge myself, well, not the only reason, but I started to challenge myself to write my music in normal song structure, intro, verse, hook, verse, bridge, hook, outro, hook, like that common song structure, because I felt that was the expectation that my audience had of me. And that's the expectation that the world has of most musicians and artists. That's the expected structure of music. But it's not really what I naturally gravitate towards. I don't care for normal song structure. Not for myself, at least. I expect an eclectic approach to music. That's my standard. I expect abnormal production. I hate beats that do the same thing the whole song. That's not my expectation. I expect theatrical performances. I expect big projects filled with many things to accompany the music. My expectations are for things to be done right, high quality. I like to create wonderful experiences around the art. I expect an encounter when I am writing. I expect an encounter when I am performing. I expect an encounter when I'm choosing a beat. I expect for my projects to be encounters, experiences. That's my standard. And the same encounter and experience that I have when I'm writing my music or making my music is the same encounter and experience that I want to translate for the world to have that luxury too, if I choose to do so. This is who I am as an artist. These are my expectations. This is who I am as a person and who I am as a woman, as Jayla, as Doechii. With that being said, time is not an expectation of mine. Time may be an expectation for other artists, but it's not an expectation for me. Time is an expectation for the world or other people, or maybe my audience. My audience expects for something to be done at a certain time. There's this pressure for musicians and artists and creatives to meet these time expectations. But if time is not an expectation to me, I don't feel a need. I don't feel it necessary to try and live up to it. I don't care. So, like I said before, I start to feel inadequate, not because I'm incapable, not because I believe I'm not talented or because I can't do this, that, and the third, but because I want to do it fast because that's what I think people expect from me to do. I want to get these projects out fast and I'm rushing things because I don't want them to lose interest. I don't want them to unfollow or leave or anything like that. So I feel a need to make time an expectation for me when it's truly not. And if I'm being honest with myself and I'm being true to my craft and who I am as an artist, that is one thing that I've come to accept. I don't give a fuck about it. And so with that being said, I have just decided that I'm going to create up to my expectations because guess what? Whether an audience is watching or not, these are the expectations that make me happy. These are the expectations that are natural to me, and these are the expectations that are valuable to me. And it's my expectations of my art that built the goddamn audience in the first place. And I feel like I have lost myself, or I will lose myself the day that I start trying to make my art and create based on my audience's expectations of me instead of the true expectations I have of myself, and doing things that align with my own values and things that matter to me. So no matter how much time it takes, and I'm reading this, no matter how much time it takes or how many people unfollow me or how many people lose interest during the process, that is the standard that I have. These are the expectations that I have. Honesty, detail, abnormal production, creating an encounter. I don't give a fuck how long it takes. If I don't find a beat that gives me that encounter or that feeling or that flow, The song is not going to get made until I have that encounter. The project is not going to get made until I have that encounter. Until I dig and I find the truth and I get those details and it's up to my expectation and my standard, it's not happening. That's my expectation of myself. And my expectations are going to attract a crowd or an audience that will appreciate that. And whether or not it does or doesn't even matter to me. Truly, when it all falls down, it really doesn't. Because that's my addiction. These expectations, me as an artist, that's the high that I'm looking for. I'm not just looking to complete things just so I'm not seeking applause. I'm not looking to complete things because I want people to clap for me. If I'm being honest, I'm looking to complete these things because me being honest and having self-evolution and having these encounters, I'm addicted to the encounter that comes with creating. I'm addicted to the encounter that I have and the experiences created around completing a creation. That's what I'm addicted to. Not the fame, not the money, not the lights, not the people, not the applause, not the praise, not any of that. And to come to that realization and have that truth feels so good. Like, so good. So nothing else matters but that. I don't care about the expectations and pressures of my audience, what they have for me, and I refuse to live up to them. Because they're not mine and they're not true. And I wouldn't be being true to myself if I was trying to live up to how I think people expect me to be. I'm just going to have to be me because all the other shit isn't working. So as long as my expectations are met and I complete projects up to my standards, I am happy. Whether I get applause, tomatoes, or silence, it doesn't matter because I got my encounter. And the most important thing for me is for the world to experience that encounter. The most important things for me when I'm creating my art is I have an encounter, I have an evolution, and I have resonance. I want it to resonate, I want it to evolve, and I want an encounter. So the same thing is going to happen when I put out my projects, no matter how long it takes or what I'm doing or whatever. I want my audience or whoever's watching or not, I don't give a fuck, bitch. Whoever just so happens to be in the midst of the motherfucking storm, I want them to understand my expectation and my standard is that you will have an encounter, which will trigger an evolution and resonance. And honestly, it might be the other way around. It will resonate, which will trigger an encounter, and that encounter will trigger your evolution. And those are the key things that are so important to me in my art and my music. That is why. And it makes all the little details that matter to me so much, it makes them all make so much sense because that is the core of what it is. I just feel like everything after this is going to be so much easier to create because now I have the core values of creation. I know why I'm doing this. I know what I'm addicted to. I'm addicted to the encounter. That's why, bro. Like, that's why I haven't dropped a project yet. That's why, because the encounter isn't done. The experience isn't done. Like, that's why I make music the way that I do and I talk about the things that I do and I approach it the way that I do because there's a certain experience and encounter that you have to have in this resonance that I have to have in my art. I just feel so proud. Like, I'm just like, oh my God. Bitch, I cracked the motherfucking code. All right. We need to talk about week 4, but I'm going to do that in a separate video.